Welcome to Radicalize Me. Star Trek Lower Decks is the cartoon comedy version of Star Trek, but it's a real Trek show. The show is official canon and often references and interacts with characters and locations from past Trek shows. The show also, impressively, corrects one of the mistakes that the franchise has made several times over the years. I'm of course talking about the idea that replicator technology made capitalism unnecessary, and that everyone just spontaneously agreed to that without a fight, and the capitalists didn't try to monetize the technology through artificial scarcity or hold on to their power through fascism. The replicator is a machine that can rearrange matter inputs to create food, building materials, and almost anything else you can think of. It's a cool idea and probably necessary for the in-show universe to exist, but it can also be a little bit of a Deus Ex vending machine that can instantly solve any problem, so they often have to make up restrictions on it so there can be a story. Oh, and one thing I'd like to get out of the way before we continue: every time I do a video about the politics of Star Trek, there's at least one person who comments, it's fiction? So I'd just like to say to the people who will inevitably have the urge to post such a comment on this video, you're so smart. You're so smart. You're so smart. You're so smart. In Season 5, Episode 2 of Lower Decks, the Cerritos crew visit a planet called Targalas 9, where the population has recently abolished capitalism.
The Cerritos has arrived at Targalas 9, a recent addition to the Federation, to help dismantle their capitalist system of wealth.
So far, I'm a happy guy. Trek very rarely acknowledges capitalism or socialism, with many of the writers, actors, and fans alike preferring the term post-scarcity. First of all, I hate the term post-scarcity, because we are already post-scarcity. We just don't distribute resources in a just, equitable, or sustainable way because we live under capitalism. And sure, the way we produce and transport things is not as simple as replicator tech and transporter teleportation. But we still have robust supply lines that could easily serve everyone if we stopped prioritizing profit and started prioritizing human needs. The shows often don't mention capitalism or socialism, probably to avoid controversy, but also because of a misguided belief that post-scarcity means you're also post-politics and post-economics. This couldn't be further from the truth, which is why I think it's important to describe the society depicted in Star Trek as definitely post-capitalism, likely socialist, and possibly communist.
Money doesn't exist in the 24th century.
And once again, if you're watching this and you're a donkey who thinks the curtains are just blue, what we're doing here is analyzing a piece of fiction and the implications of the pretend world in the story, and using it as a jumping off point to discuss real-world topics. But just as I was cheering for Lower Decks' confirmation that the Federation is post-capitalist, I got worried when I saw this next part.
Having just acquired post-scarcity technology, the Targalans are removing their obsolete financial structures to make room for museums and meditation gardens.
Maybe you spotted the problem here. This is what a lot of people say about Trek, including a writer on one of the shows, not Lower Decks, who I've spoken to personally. They say that because a society has invented the replicator, their financial structures are obsolete, and therefore the society dismantles those financial structures, and poof, you have a utopia. This ignores the fact that capitalists, their lackeys in government, and their sycophants among the proletariat will always fight a counter-revolution to try to maintain the capitalist power structure. We know this because it has happened in every place that tried to abolish capitalism. It happened in Russia, it happened in China, it happened in Cuba, it happened in Vietnam, it happened in Korea. It happens every time there's a socialist revolution. And even when there isn't a revolution, and capitalism simply faces a crisis like the Great Depression, 2008 financial crash, or COVID and the lockdowns, capitalists manipulate the system to put capitalism on life support so they can hold on to power. Capitalism would have collapsed or turned to fascism in response to the Great Depression without FDR's Keynesian reforms in the 1930s and 40s. Same with Bush and Obama bailing out the banks and automakers in 2008 and 2009, and Trump bailing out Wall Street in 2020. Even consumer credit, your credit card, your mortgage, your home equity, exist because without it, we can't endlessly consume all the mountains of crap we produce for the capitalists, because we are necessarily alienated from the products of our labor under this consumption-based capitalist organization of the economy. So Lower Decks made me nervous for a second there, but the intro closes out hinting that the show might actually throw in a dash of class struggle.
Most Targalans have embraced their new way of life, as evidenced by the planet-wide celebration.
So right here, this dude is shaking his head. He's got a cool hover sports car, nice clothes, so we can assume this is a rich guy who's not too happy that his planet is abolishing currency. We have at the very least established that there is dissent. Not everyone is on board with ending capitalism. I'm not sure if we've ever seen this in Trek. The only pro-capitalist forces we tend to see are the Ferengi, but they're not a part of the Federation, and their society is internally firmly capitalist, even though there might be some dissenters, like Grand Nagus Ram.
Workers of the world, unite! You have nothing to lose but your chains.
Later, when Boimler and Mariner are looking for Boimler's away team, who got lost earlier, they spot the team getting kidnapped by the rich guy from earlier and an accomplice wearing a similar uniform. Mariner calls Commander Ransom, who is already aware of, as he calls them, angry jewel-encrusted aliens who have formed elitist terrorist cells all over the continent. He even mentions capitalism again.
Not everyone on Targalas is happy about the removal of capitalism.
We can add this episode to a couple of other times modern Trek shows have made reference to the post-capitalist nature of the Federation. Commander Pelia says this in Strange New Worlds.
I still have a bunker in Vermont in case this whole no money socialist utopia turns out to be a fad.
And in Discovery, when the crew travels to the far future, this character Osira tells Starfleet Admiral Charles Vance that the Federation is losing its influence, and some member planets have already returned to capitalism. This obviously suggests that they were not practicing capitalism before.
It is possible to do everything right and still get your away team kidnapped by the corporate elite.
Now, we even know that they were corporate elites. Bonus points that this line was a parody of something Picard once said.
It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose. That is not a weakness. That is life.
Boimler and Mariner get caught sneaking into the capitalist hideout, but, spoiler alert, they do get out and free the away team. At first, they think the away team is... but it turns out they used a tip Boimler had given them before about understanding a planet's flora and fauna, and found a beetle whose bite makes you appear... Captain Kirk pulled a similar trick back in Season 2, Episode 1 of the original series, Amok Time.
Jim! He slipped in a neural paralyzer. Knocked me out.
We didn't mean to hurt anyone. We just didn't want to lose the capitalist system that gave us ultimate power.
Well, now you're gonna get arrested by Starfleet. You're gonna be poor and stuck in a prison by space aliens.
The elites flee the scene, and the crew gets back to the ship. It's kind of hilarious to think that capitalists would ever be this horrified that their actions harmed people, but the ultimate power line is a nice touch. I bet there are at least a couple of socialists on the Lower Decks writing team. The show is basically a sitcom and can't delve super deeply into this stuff, but they still seem to understand some of the implications of a newly post-capitalist society. They don't get as detailed as I will when I write Star Trek Revolution, but still, it's pretty good. So basically, I am completely vindicated. I was right about everything. The Federation is not only post-capitalist, but anti-capitalist, and we can comfortably call it socialist or communist. A piece of official Star Trek content has confirmed the abolition of capitalism under the Federation, and they have integrated some of the real-world issues that tend to arise during socialist revolutions, including the backlash from capitalist counter-revolutionaries. That's some sophisticated fucking writing. You can be one of those losers who cry that New Trek isn't canon, but that doesn't make it true. Take it up with Paramount, your capitalist heroes. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and join me on Patreon if you're able. You can even give a one-time donation at Buy Me a Coffee. Every little bit helps, and the more support I get from you lovely folks, the more goofy-ass videos I can make. Thank you so much. Bye now.